everything's over $100,000. Every piece of equipment. Vendors are constantly coming to you. They're taking you out. They're whining and dining you. And then they're saying, hey, buy my $250,000 laser. And so at the time, we didn't have any lasers. We weren't a med spa at that moment. And so what I was doing was comfortable because everything was, in my perspective, it was cheap. The margins were big and, product cost, I could charge $600 for a treatment that cost me $12 to do. And I didn't pay labor because it was all at that point mine. And I could just reinvest that into the business or, take a vacation, whatever I needed to do. But there was really no risk involved there. If I dropped a bottle of ink, I'd just go get another one. It was no big deal. But when it came into saying, hey, we want to become something, we want to become a med spa, that needed to be lasers. Lasers, injectables, which again are extremely expensive perspective wise. When you looked into it further, you had to, it's a lot. You had to pay for a medical director. You had to pay for the insurance on the machine, the calibration of the machine, the insurance on the machine. And then you also had to pay for the machine. And I didn't have $200,000 to buy a laser. So, we got a loan, got an SBA loan, got another loan, and people were just giving us loans. So fortunately, I had another dabble in another business. So I had a blind and shutter company when I was 21. It was awesome. I was making a lot of money for that point in my life. I was making a lot of money, but it was very short lived and I just mismanagement everything. I just spent every dollar I made and that went under completely. And from that, it was that at that time I had to file bankruptcy because we had a house we couldn't afford, I had cars I couldn't afford, and it was just like a 6-month stint. It was like very, very quick and then very, very down, and it was over. So we ended up having to file bankruptcy at 21 years old. And so that was another failure, but it wasn't because that won't happen again. Or, I know what led to that. And so it's not going to happen in my 40s. It happened in my 20s. It's over with now. And so we worked really diligently on building our credit. And I think that's where the loans came in. And so we were blessed enough that people could look at us and say, hey, here you go. Here's $100,000. And then go to another place and here's $150,000. At the time, also not understanding that, hey, this all needs to be paid. So when things are busy, it's great. When you have $20,000 in debt payments each month that you have to pay, but you're able to cover it because it's busy, great, no problem. Well, you're not thinking about what happens when it's not busy. What happens when you have a down season? What happens when it comes? And I wasn't preparing for winter. And so I think that was where the risk was that's why when I say the risk was unknown, because I thought it was always going to be this way.
Yeah.
And that was another huge lesson to learn because I'm still in some way digging myself out of that through different creative ways, which are all lessons at the end of the day. So